Sound the sirens, another emergency Eagle Eye podcast. Roob and Frank, Dave Zangaro. This is Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. Roob, you're in a car right now. I'm luckily at home. How are we doing?
Doing great. We have a long history of doing podcasting cars, driving up to Buffalo, driving back from Buffalo the day Hassan Reddick got traded. So here we go again.
Here we go again. This time, Zack Baun gets a new contract, 3 years, $51 million, $34 million guaranteed, 17 million APY average per year. That makes him the fourth highest paid linebacker in the NFL. In back-to-back days, Rube, Howie Roseman has given out a boatload of money to a running back and now a linebacker.
Isn't that ironic? I mean, those are the two positions, as you guys know, that traditionally he hasn't given contracts to. So I think we talked about this in the last week. Like, this is a new Howie Roseman. This is a Howie Roseman kind of, and I think that's one of the things that makes him an effective GM is he's not too rigid. I think the first time around he was, but he's not too rigid to go against his history and his track record and sign really, really, really good players, even if they're at a position that Howie hasn't normally valued.
Yeah, and with Zack Baun, like to me, this was just such a no-brainer. And I went to Indianapolis, and I thought Zack Baun was going to be their top priority. By the time I left Indy, I was like, man, there's no way they're letting this guy leave. It was really apparent they were going to get this done. And you and I have talked about like in terms like how you would stack up their pending free agents. And look, if you make a case that Milton Williams was their most important free agent, like I get it. He's 25, plays a premium position, attacking the quarterback. I get all that. But if you watch the 2024 Eagles defense, and I was like, which guy can they not afford to lose? You'd circle number 53 pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think that's true. And, Milton really came into his own this year, had an incredible postseason, a great Super Bowl. But for the whole season, Zack Baun was the best player on the best defense in the league. And I really like Milton's game, but yeah, he does everything. Zack Baun, he's like the prototypical linebacker who can cover, he can tackle, he can make plays on the ball. He can, he's physical, he's smart, he's instinctive. He can get after the quarterback and pressure if that's what you want from him. And man, he just makes a big play every game. Interceptions, forced fumbles. We had 5 forced fumbles and a couple more in the postseason. A game didn't go by where he didn't make his presence known. I think there was one. He had one bad game. Was it the first Washington game? Maybe. He had one bad game where, it was a new position for the guy, and what he did, and it still blows my mind that he could go from where he was in New Orleans, being a backup edge and a special teamer, to a top 5 defensive player of the year at a new position on a new team with a new coach and a new scheme. What he did is, I don't know if it's unprecedented in NFL history, but I don't know anybody else who's done it.
It is amazing. And you and I talked almost a year ago at this point when they signed Zack Baun in free agency the first time. 1 year's $3.5 million. We figured, all right, he'll play special teams. His best position is probably like a situational edge rusher, a la Andrew Van Ginkel in Miami. And honestly, that's like kind of how the Eagles viewed him. That's how the front office viewed him. But it took Vic Fangio looking at the guy saying, wait a second, I think he can play off-ball linebacker. They put him in there at OTAs, and he started to look the part. And then in training camp, the further we got into it, we're like, okay, I guess he's a starting linebacker. As much as they rotated some of the other spots, it was pretty consistent that he was one of the top linebackers. And then he goes to Sao Paulo that first game, and like that was the wake-up call for everyone. Like, oh no, he's not just like going to be okay. He has the chance to be really, really good. And then, it just kept going from there.
Yeah, and we've talked before about that first day of OTAs when we were standing there. I still remember standing on the field on the far left there, and you're like, look who's running with the ones at off ball, and you see Zack Baun out there. I'm like, all right, it's not going to last. It's an experiment. What are they doing? What's going on here? Never left. And I talked to Zach about that day, and just like he had no idea. You just go out and play off ball linebacker. And you're right, training camp was really. I mean, Brazil was he was terrific in that game. He had 2 sacks, but in training camp, you could just see day after day as the days stacked up that he could play that position at a really high level. Now you don't really know till you get to the season, but um, I mean, it was fun watching him because he was just so around the ball, and you could see him getting better every day. I mean, this is a guy 28, or I guess he was 27 at the time, playing a new position, and he had so much room to grow, and you could just see it day after day, the confidence growing, the comfort level growing, and yeah, there were times where you're like, he might be really good, and he was.
That's kind of the fun thing about this deal is look, like I think obviously there's risk involved in any deal, and the risk here is that he's 28. He's had 1 year of production in the NFL, and you just gave him all this money. But to me, the reward like far outweighs the risk because I think he can be much better in year two, year three, year four in this defense. I really think he's just kind of scratching the surface of what he can be in Vic Fangio's defense, and that's like super scary to think about because he was already fifth in Defensive Player of the Year voting. But I do think he'll continue to grow in this defense, and that's really exciting. We don't know if his body will hold up. Injury is always like a risk, and you always worry about that. But if he does, I mean, I see no reason why he can't duplicate this success, if not improve upon it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I mean, this is a guy who it's still a new position for him, and he's going to keep learning and keep improving and keep getting better. And I think he's got a position coach in Bobby King who's really been good for him and helped him get to that next level. But yeah, I mean, how many times do you see a guy that maxes out after 1 year at a new position, a guy with talent? So I don't know how much better he can be. I don't know how much more productive he can be. I don't know how many how many more times the ball is going to come his way. But uh, I don't see any reason he can't. I don't know if it's going to be leaps and bounds, is what I'm saying, but because he's already at such a high level. But I do think that he can be a better player, and I know he wants to be. And I mean, he's a guy that just always wants to be better, and no matter how well he plays, he's one of those guys. Just like he's going to tell you about the play he didn't make. It's exciting to think of where he's going to be in a year or two.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I think what stood out most about him were his coverage skills this year because we kind of thought like him at the line of scrimmage, being able to blitz and uh, even being in the box, like we thought he'd be able to handle those things fairly well. But to see how smooth he looked in coverage this year was kind of mind blowing to me. Like we knew he was long and that length would probably help out, not going to pass down here or there. But gosh, he just looked like a natural in coverage this year. And he looked like like him and Cooper DeJean playing together was like a thing of beauty. And I know he's excited about getting more time with Cooper because those two, they didn't even have a full season together, but by the end of it, it was like they knew exactly where the other one was going to be. And when you're playing in tight quarters like that, and you're playing in zone coverage like the two of them are, like it takes a lot of feel. And gosh, like they were so good together in year one, and now you have potentially 3 more years to watch them grow together in the middle of that defense, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, and you can say that about half the defense. Like, I mean, not a new position, but I mean, it was Quignon's first year as an NFL player, and Cooper's first year. It was Nolan's first year as a starter. It was N'Kobe's first year as a full time starter. So you have all these guys kind of playing new positions or new roles, and that's what. And they still have the number one defense in the league, but that's what tells me if they all continue growing, and they all seem to be guys that put in the work and are hungry. If that continues, yeah, I mean, there's no telling how much better this defense can be. I mean, for Zach and really for the whole group, and they've got the new. I mean, they're going to lose a couple guys, um, probably. They've Slay's already gone, but they're going to have the nucleus of the defense back. I mean, they're going to have 8 starters back, 9 if you count N'Kobe, right? So, yeah, there's a lot of reasons to be bullish on Zach's future and this defense's future.
Yeah, I mean, certainly they're going to have a lot of those pieces back, and getting Zach Baun back is just enormous. Looking at the average per year of the top paid linebackers in the league, Baun is now fourth at 17 mil per season. Top on the list is Roquan Smith, 20 a year. Fred Warner just over 19. Tremaine Edmonds, 18 mil. That's per over the cap. So does not reset the market, but a significant payday for Zack Baun. And some of the projections on his salary were just so low. Like the Spotrac projection, I think had him at like 10 mil a year, and it's like,
I think it was 12. It was low. It might have been 10. Yeah, but it was low.
yeah, it was 10. Like that's way too low. So you're thinking maybe like in the 12 to 14 range. The Eagles topped that, and uh, I think it tells you they knew where the market was going for him. I think there was probably a lot that you can kind of sense when there are sharks in the water, and they're getting a little taste of a free agent who's about to be able to test the market, and the Eagles get out in front of it. You have exclusive negotiating rights until noon on Monday when that tampering or negotiating period opens. So you make the best use of it you can, and you make sure that he doesn't even see free agency.
And I think he probably would have gotten a little more. I don't know how much more, but if he waited till Monday, um, I would think he could have gotten close to that Roquan number. I don't know, but I'm guessing. Um, he really loves it here, and I don't know if that much money, 17 million a year, is a hometown discount. It might be a small one, but he really wanted to come back. He loves playing for Vic. He loves the fans. He loves the community. He loves his teammates. He loves the coaches. Um, and I think that might be worth a couple million a year to him. Um, we'll eventually find out if I'm sure we'll find out what other offers might have been. Maybe we won't, but I have a feeling he would have gotten offered a little bit more if he hit the open market. And I think Howie managed to find that ground where it's not too much for the Eagles to pay, but it's enough to bring him back before he hits the open market. And look, you never know what's going to happen if he gets to Monday at noon. Um, as much as he might want to be back here, once he starts getting offers and his agent starts calling him, like, it's a lot harder at that point. So as long as you have exclusive negotiating rights, you have a really good shot if it's somebody you want. So this is huge. I mean, this is just so huge for this team to have that guy back for 3 more years. He's, who the previous highest paid linebacker was in Eagles history? I did a little research.
I'm guessing you're going to tell me.
It was Nigel Bradham. He signed that 5-year, $40 million deal, so it was $8 million a year. So he doubled it. Um, Bradham only ended up playing 2 years under that deal. But but yeah, I mean, and like you said when we started, I mean, these are two positions Howie has never valued that he's given out massive deals to. So things are changing in that front office, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's not even, I don't even know what's really changing other than they're willing to make exceptions for exceptional players. Really. I mean, I don't think it's like they're going to just start paying any linebacker or any
Sure.
running back. But when you have these special players who like just change the way your offense or defense functions, then I think you're willing to do that. It's not like all of a sudden, the next time linebacker X is due a contract, they're just going to break the bank for him. But Zach Baun was a player that was worth doing that for. And I think the hometown discount aspect is just the fact that he signs the deal before he hits the market.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. Like I don't know what he would have gotten on the market, and neither the Eagles. And I'm sure there was a part of Zach Baun who was really curious to find out. I mean, this is his first chance at 28 years old, and maybe his only chance,
Sure.
honestly, to really test the market. So he gives that opportunity up to stay here, and I think like no matter what the deal would have been, I think that's the discount.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't disagree. And um, yeah, I would agree with that. And I also think, and I don't, I agree with what you're saying about Howie, but I don't think Howie, the first time around, or even maybe the first couple of years, the second time around, would have signed Saquon, and I don't think he would have. Maybe he would have made this deal after the way Zach played, but I don't know. I just think he was convinced that those two positions weren't worth big money. There's no way he would have signed Saquon. There's no way early GM Howie would have signed Saquon
To the extension or to the first contract?
to the first contract.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then who knows? I mean, he couldn't have signed him to the second one. But once you have Baun in on a budget deal, $3.5 million, and he plays like that, he might not have had a choice. But it's a fun thing to think about. But he did what he had to do, and we'll see. I guess the next question is, you look at who's left, and Sweat, Becton, Isaiah Rodgers, Milton, and then there's other guys, but those are the main guys. What effect does this have on the next few days and the first days of free agency?
Yeah, and Oren Burks too is one obviously we should mention at this position, because there was a thought that if they couldn't re-sign Zack Baun, then you certainly can't lose Oren Burks. You can't start over basically because you have Nakobe Dean coming off the injury, probably won't be ready for the start of the next season. So at least now Zack Baun, you can plug him into that spot. And if you can't re-sign Oren Burks, which I still think they can, I don't think that one, like I think you get him for another 1 year deal. It'll be above minimum, but I think that'll be worth it. But even if not, you feel good about Zack Baun. Maybe you plug in a Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and it's not like you're starting over at the position.
Yeah, and I think what happens with Oren Burks is going to tell you a little bit. I mean, Trott's still a young guy. He's 22. I think he just turned 22. It's going to tell you a little bit about how they feel about Trott, who I think has a chance to be a player. But Oren Burks was really good when he had to fill in for Nakobe and had a good postseason. I think if he hits the open market, I don't know. I don't know what Oren Burks is going to find there. He's an older guy. Was he 29? I think, but he played well, and I think he would get offers. Not 17 million a year, but I think he would get a little bit more than minimum somewhere. But we'll see. I don't think he's going to cost a whole lot, but I think it's there's so many questions with Nakobe. I don't know when he's going to be able to play. I don't know what they think of Trott, although I have a feeling they like him. But we'll see. I think either way, with Zack Baun here or not, I think it would be good to get Oren Burks back in the fold.
Yeah, I think ideally they'd want to get Burks back. I think if another team offers him a multi-year deal, which I don't think is very likely, then obviously he's gone. But if you have a chance to bring him back on 1 year, I think you do that because he's a valuable player, even if he's not starting, because he's such a good special teamer. And they had to kind of pare down his role on special teams once he got inserted into the lineup. But you feel good about him being the top backup. Whereas with Trotter, like maybe you'd feel good about it, but you'd kind of be going on your projection of him rather than what you've actually already seen.
Right, exactly. And if you sign Burks to a 1 year deal, then going into 26, Trott's still only 23, and you have a better sense of what you have there. So, but I like Trott. I think Trott showed on special teams and very few snaps on defense. I think he's got something. I think there's something there, but he is small. So we'll see. But yeah, I think it's bait to bring back Burks. Out of those other guys, have your feelings changed at all as far as Milton, Sweat, Becton?
No, I mean, I think I've been pretty consistent that Baun was like number one the whole way. Milton would be up there in terms of importance, but I don't have a lot of faith that the Eagles would be able to swing that. Same with Sweat. Like, I just don't think they're going to be able to pay those guys. I thought those guys were pretty clearly gone. And then Becton is kind of a wait and see. I think you let him test the market because I really don't know what the market holds for Mekhi Becton because of, he is he a guard? Is he a tackle? Do you believe the 1 year guard? Do teams view him at one position or the other? Like, I think there are a lot of different questions with Becton. I think the Eagles should be willing to bring him back, but they got to let him see what's out there first.
Yeah, I think all of that's true. I think it's going to be tough to re-sign Milton, but I wouldn't rule it out. I think if you're Milton, you want to at least see what the market, where the market values him. I think it might be a little out of the Eagles' range.
Yeah, see, I think we differ. I think it's definitely going to be out of their range.
What about Rodgers?
Yeah, I'd be open to it, but they have to also be open to the possibility of Slay coming back. He's made it very clear that he would want to be back if they can figure it out. And at 34-year-old corner, like I don't know if there's going to be a huge market for him, especially in places he would be willing to play.
Yeah,
So I wouldn't rush out on day one and bring back Rodgers.
yeah, I agree, and I really like Keeley. So I thought Rodgers was a good guy to have this year, but um, Rodgers is under. Ringo's under a rookie contract for 2 more years. I think Isaiah might get some significant offers. He played well. He's a lot older than Keeley, so I have a feeling Rodgers is gone.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
All right, we just wanted to pop on here and talk a little bit about the Zack Baun contract, an emergency Eagle Eye podcast. If you enjoy the pod, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. For Roob, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.